Now, The Hunt Palmer Show.
Waiting to rise again.
You're listening to The Hunt Palmer Show. Brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Locking down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour 2, Friday edition of the Hunt Palmer Show. 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We're brought to you by Cork's Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp. Talking LSU, Florida Gulf Coast, as well as Saints and Giants moving forward in this hour. Got to get to Conference Championship Week as well. And I plan to do that here, and I am going to do that here in a few minutes, but I do have some more transfer portal news as it relates to LSU, so we'll get to that right off the top here. 4 more entrants into the transfer portal for LSU. 3 of these names don't surprise me at all. One a little bit, but not a ton. Bernard Causey has entered the transfer portal. I will tell you this. Causey comes in from New Orleans as a defensive back. In my 14 years of going to LSU football practice, have never quite seen a frame as small as Causey. I mean, he was as skinny as I've ever seen on the field for LSU. It was very clear he was going to have to put on significant weight. Did not play at all this year. He may be a great player down the line, but certainly a guy that is going to have to add a little bit of weight. Demarion Johnson is a defensive tackle prospect that they brought in this past year. Did not play this year for LSU, and I did a segment on this. I wrote a story on it for LouisianaSports.net yesterday about LSU's defensive tackle room and how they've kind of shored that up in a pretty short amount of time. Looking at next year, you've got Jacoby and Guillory coming back. You feel really good about where Ahmad Bro and Dominic McKinley ended last year. And then there are 4 signees coming in this class that Bo Davis has personally identified that he wants to bring in at defensive tackle here. So you're really looking, plus JVR Suggs, and you've got some guys there that you really feel like give you a great foundation. I don't know where Demarion Johnson fit into that, but it looked like maybe a playing time issue for him, so he'll move on. Jair Brown came in from Ohio State to play cornerback. He and J.K. Johnson were the 2 guys from Ohio State that came in, and he was former 4-star recruit, guy that had battled some injuries at Ohio State and just never really got to the field here at LSU. I'm not here to say that he never could, but that's a guy that I'm assuming is kind of looking around at playing time options as well at corner. And then Xavier Atkins surprises me a little bit because Xavier Atkins got to the field pretty early in his LSU career at linebacker. He played against Nichols. He played against South Carolina, played against South Alabama, played against Ole Miss. I wouldn't suggest he was uber productive in that time. He only made 3 total tackles in the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games that he played in. But obviously, toward the end of the season, you saw Devon Keys emerge at linebacker and really play well. You've got the Weeks brothers, now 3 of them at linebacker. We'll see what Harold Perkins decide to do. You brought in a couple linebackers in this class as well that LSU feels very good about. So I was a little bit surprised to see Xavier Atkins, who they really liked at linebacker. But we'll see where those guys end up. But portal opens up here in a couple days. Xavier Atkins, linebacker, Bernard Causey, defensive back, Demarion Johnson, defensive tackle, and Jair Brown, cornerback, 4 more entrants into the transfer portal for LSU on this Friday. So let's look at Conference Championship Week here. I want to start in the Southeastern Conference. Obviously, you're looking at Georgia and Texas, kind of the pick that everyone had entering the year. Texas based on their talent level as well as their schedule, and Georgia based on the monster that they've been. I mean, they hadn't lost a regular season game since back in the COVID year. It had been Kyle Trask was the last team to beat Georgia in the Southeastern Conference in a regular season game. But you look at that schedule, and it's just about too difficult for anyone to navigate. Georgia had to go to Tuscaloosa. They had to go to Austin. They had to go to Oxford. They had Tennessee coming in, and plus they played Clemson in the opener. So that's about as difficult a schedule as you can put together. And they navigated it at 10-2, and through the tiebreakers, they get to play in the SEC championship game in Atlanta and against an opponent they've already seen. We saw Georgia go to Austin and really punk this Texas team, and that led everyone to kind of look back and go, okay, how good is Texas? Like, their best win is Vanderbilt. I certainly said that. I picked A&M to win the game last week, and Texas really kept little brother at arm's length. They didn't allow an offensive touchdown. I think Texas' defensive talent is very good. I'm concerned about the fact that they may not have the best left tackle probably in college football. Banks is hurt and is dealing with an injury, and I quite frankly probably wouldn't put him out there in this game. Texas is in the playoff whether they win this game or not. Georgia's got some dudes on the defensive front, and they can cause you some significant issues, especially when you don't have Kelvin Banks, your best tackle. So I'm a little concerned with Texas' offense. You go back to this game that was 6 weeks ago, and Texas scored 15 points in that game. That's not going to get it. And oh, by the way, that was at the point in the season where Carson Beck was turning the ball over and giving it away like the old lady at the corner on Halloween giving away Skittles. Like, it was just constant. And he's cleaned that up. He hadn't thrown an interception in his last 3 games, and he's still throwing touchdown passes. It feels like Georgia is the play here. The sense of urgency for Georgia is probably greater. They're playing cleaner offensively. Texas maybe without their best tackle, but I still have to circle back and go, well, Georgia had a lot of sense of urgency last week, and their quarterback played well last week, and they should have lost to Georgia Tech. Like, if Haynes King doesn't cough that ball up on the second to last drive for Georgia Tech and basically gift the field position for the touchdown for Georgia, Georgia Tech wins that game, and Georgia's done. And that was on their home field. So I start to analyze the whole thing, whereas my gut told me, yeah, Georgia's really the play. I'm starting to feel Texas a little bit more. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Longhorns to win this game. The bigger question at a local angle, and I felt this last week as I was watching A&M in Texas, and it furthered a few days later when Cade Phillips flipped. I've harbored this resentment against Texas A&M for a decade, not because I think the Yell leaders are goofy, not because I think that they're a cult, not because I think that any of their traditions don't jive. I've been upfront about this. I pull against Texas A&M because I found them to be a threat to LSU. I found their geographical footprint, their resources, and where we played them on the schedule to be threatening to LSU. More so than Ole Miss. More so than Mississippi State. Maybe even more so than Auburn. Certainly more so than Arkansas. That's why I pull against Texas A&M. And LSU got into a bunch of recruiting battles with Texas A&M over the years. You lost Speedy Noyle, lost Le'Veon Moss, lost Jacoby Matthews. You won yours too. But there was a reason behind that, and I've never had that with Texas. I feel like that's coming. And you saw Cade Phillips, and you saw, I'm blanking, but the safety from Acadiana who LSU missed out on last year. Like, Texas is going to come into Louisiana now because they've got fat stacks of cash, and Louisiana's got a lot of players. And I haven't built up that hatred for Texas because we have not played them. But I feel like that's coming. And I don't feel like LSU swims in the same waters as Georgia very often. Now, LSU does go to Georgia and recruit a little bit. Weeks brothers are obviously from Georgia. You've had really good players over the years like Kevin Minner and Kelvin Shepard and a lot of guys from Georgia. All your long snappers have come from Georgia. But I feel like Texas geographically, with the way that LSU recruits in Houston and the way that Texas has come into Louisiana a little bit, like, you've got to pay attention there. So my gut tells me, like, from an LSU perspective, I need to pull for Georgia. So I'll pull for Georgia, test out this theory, and I think it's going to be a heck of a football game. I feel like it's a little bit stress-free for both teams, which I didn't necessarily think entering, but, I mean, Georgia is not going to fall behind Bama for losing this game. Even with the head-to-head, I don't think that's going to happen. So I'll pull for Georgia. Don't think it's that consequential, but that's who I got in this SEC title game. Back, do you have a thought on the SEC title game? I'm going to go to the Big Ten here, and then I'm going to go to the ACC. But what are your thoughts on Georgia, Texas? It's obviously two huge brands.
Yeah. I was listening to Live at Lunch earlier today, and they were breaking it down, and Charlie was on Georgia because, you know, Kirby has coached in these games plenty of times, and even though this isn't his best Georgia team, which I think is very clear, he still knows how to coach in these games and knows how to get the best out of his players. And I kind of agree with him. And I have been a little bit negative on Texas all year, and I think a lot of people have because of just the fact that they didn't really play anyone except for Georgia and A&M. They dominated A&M, didn't really do anything on offense, and then against Georgia they just got manhandled. And it's just weird, like that's just the way the SEC has been. Like Georgia manhandled Texas, and then they got manhandled back. And so it's just strange to me.
I will say this. If Georgia beats Texas by 2 touchdowns, beats them by 20 points on Saturday, that will end Texas season for me.
Yes,
because
I agree.
If you prove that you can't match up with Georgia, and I have to go back and go, well, but they did beat Michigan bad, and they went to Nashville and won, and they beat Marcel Reed, you all of a sudden lose your clout.
Yeah.
So I can't trust you at that point to go play Oregon, to go play Ohio State, to go play Tennessee, quite frankly.
Their 2 best wins are against teams that had no quarterback.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatsoever.
So this is a big spot for Texas to prove it that they can hang. So yeah. I'm curious to see. Speaking of proving you can hang, this is going to be contrary to popular opinion. I know. I think Penn State has some good players. I think that their reputation as a team that can't stand up in big games is well earned.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick them to win tomorrow.
Wow. Very interesting, Hunt.
It's not like they don't ever put anybody in the NFL or their quarterback has no talent or like they have some good players. Do I think James Franklin is going to rattle off 3 Big Ten championships in a row anytime soon? No. Do I think they can play Oregon in a maybe sleepy Indianapolis? I do. I think they can win that game. Oregon doesn't have everything to play for, although I do think they'll be fired up. But I like Penn State. I like Oregon more than Penn State in the playoff. I like Penn State tomorrow.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just kind of like it's not the same situation, but for me, Penn State just kind of like Texas. Like they didn't really play very many tough games. Their really only challenging one was against Ohio State, and they lost in a close game. It was close. It wasn't like the Georgia-Texas game. It was Penn State. They proved well for themselves in that game, but they just haven't really been able to prove it against anyone legitimate. Not this season, and not recently in the last few seasons. So
no, never. They had one where they blocked a kick against Ohio State and won because they blocked a field goal.
Yeah.
So I'll take Penn State tomorrow. And then 7 o'clock ABC, Clemson and SMU. I'm going to say something that's going to make some people cranky, and they'll come across as elitist. I don't give a rip about SMU making the playoffs. This is not 1987. I haven't watched them play one snap of football this year, and I don't care about my uneducated opinion. I'm confident they're not good.
It's not 1987, Hunt, but it actually kind of is again because SMU has a lot of money.
They do, but I don't think
they
they're
can get good players.
I'm coming on the radio. I am telling you, I am uneducated on this point. I'm going to talk about Florida Gulf Coast basketball here in a second.
And you're going to know more about that.
And I actually know some things about Florida Gulf Coast basketball because I take that seriously because they're playing LSU. I'm not taking SMU seriously, period. Don't care to.
Okay.
Not going to watch Army and Tulane play. I'm not taking them seriously either. This is elitist. I have 3 national championships, Hunt Palmer. Don't care that my team was 8-4 this year. I care about 5-star recruits, 4-star recruits, first-round draft picks, championships. SMU doesn't have it. Don't care.
All right.
Don't want to watch them in the playoff. Don't need them in the playoff. Certainly don't need Boise in the playoff. Put Bama in. Put South Carolina in. Not SMU. I don't care to watch them play. I'm showing all my cards here.
You are.
I just don't care. I don't have time for that. I like the 12-team playoff. Come Monday, after they've set the field, I'm going to tell you on Monday what my field would be, and we will certainly not have SMU in it. We will certainly not have Boise State in it. We will certainly not have Tulane in it. We're going to have real teams in it.
I'm just looking at all these games, and as you mentioned about the Penn State-Oregon game, about how it might be sleepy.
Yes.
I'm looking across the board at all these conference championship games and the ticket prices. Apparently, you can get in to the Big Ten championship for $20.
I'm guaranteed. Why would an Oregon fan fly to Indianapolis? That's a long way. That's an expensive flight.
Yeah.
When if you really care about Oregon, you're going to go watch them play Tennessee or Bama in a couple of weeks. I'm not going to Indianapolis for that. LSU fans have for a long time not gone to the SC championship game. I mean, I wasn't there, but I can't imagine LSU traveled very well in 2019.
Yeah,
they were going right back.
I was there, and it was a pretty good crowd. I think that season was just different.
It was a magic carpet ride.
It was,
yes.
yeah.
But and you weren't going to have to spend, if LSU got to the national championship, on travel. If you're from the footprint, if you're from Houston or North Louisiana or of course South Louisiana, you didn't have to do much for that.
Yeah.
So, I get that to an extent, but like, no, you got bigger fish to fry if you're Oregon. You think you're winning a national championship, you got to save some cash for that.
Yeah,
so,
definitely.
All right, that's a look at conference championship weekend. We come back. Am I doing Saints or am I doing LSU basketball here? I think it's Saints.
Yeah, it's Saints.
Saints Rams. We'll do that. Why do I want to write Saints Rams in the doc? It would be Saints Giants.
Saints
The
Giants.
Saints Rams was last week.
That was last week.
We'll do Saints Rams next.
You just said
The
Saints
Hunt
Rams
Palmer
again.
Show.
I said Saints Rams again. I was reading. I'm Ron Burgundy.
Burgundy.
Let's talk Boudreaux's Electrical Services. Boudreaux's Electrical, Neil and Melissa have been running it for 40 years. Every single Generac home standby generator that you purchase at Boudreaux's Electrical comes with a 7 to 10 year warranty. All those installations are going to be done by full-time employees, not somebody they contracted in. They're going to be using the highest quality in the tubing and the wiring that goes into it, and most of that installation is going to be done underground so that it looks nice. People take pride in their homes. You very much likely take pride in the way that your home looks aesthetically. You don't want a big honking generator that just looks out of place and takes away from that look. They're not going to make that happen for you. And when that power goes out, it won't go out at your home because that generator will flip on. Give them a call. Same number they've had for 40 years. 985-397-1562. That's 985-397-1562 or 225-300-9389 in their new Gonzales location. But I tell you the easy way every single day. You can do this, and both numbers are right there online. Go to BoudreauxElectrical.com. BoudreauxElectrical.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Little correction on the segment we did at the top of the hour there where I told you 4 LSU Tigers entering the transfer portal. The names I gave you were Xavier Atkins, Bernard Causey, Demarion Johnson, and Jair Brown. Got those. Matt Zenitz reported it from On 3, and then Wilson Alexander confirmed it. So I'm looking going, well, I can probably say that. Sounds like Demarion Johnson not in the transfer portal. He told the Advocate that. Wilson reported it there on Twitter. So as of right now, Demarion Johnson, defensive tackle, not in the transfer portal, and that is just fine. That adds depth to defensive tackle, and I can promise you this. You never have too many defensive linemen. I will never look at LSU's roster and go, yeah, they really need to thin out a defensive line. That ain't the case. I might every once in a while look at wide receiver and go, or they last year in fall camp at running back, they got 8 running backs. That's probably not going to work out. That's not going to happen at defensive line. As many as you can take them all. So Demarion Johnson, not in the transfer portal, currently according to Wilson Alexander, who reported that on Twitter. Saints and Giants coming up on Sunday. Let's make sure we got that opponent correct. This is a game between two teams that are a combined 6-18. The Giants are 2-10, squarely in the mix for the first pick in the NFL draft. The Saints are 4-point favorites on the road. Saints getting a little bit healthier. Cesar Ruiz back at practice. Lucas Patrick back at practice. So Nick Saldiveri, of course, is out. But it looks like the Saints offensive line coming together, and that has very clearly been the Saints' most important injury issue outside of the quarterback going out. Yes, it's terrible when your top 2 wide receivers go out. Yes, you don't like it when Demario Davis misses his first game. Certainly, you've had injuries at corner, but nothing has impacted the Saints, in my opinion, quite like the offensive line injuries, and that group is going to be relatively whole here in this game. And I'm looking at this game, and look, we all know that you're not necessarily locking in on these Saints games to see whether or not they win or lose and can make the playoffs. That's really not an issue at this point. So what are some things that you can pay attention to? I've, over the last couple of weeks, pointed to the secondary and those 2 guys in the absence of Lattimore, who's been obviously traded, and then Adebo, who goes down. You've got McKinstry and you got Alontae Taylor. How do those guys look? That's something that I've been paying attention to. I also want to look at a couple of guys who are young, who are going to get an opportunity, it looks, to play in this game. How do they look? And one has been in there all year and has been very good. That's Trevor Penning. Hand up right here. Not going to hide from it at all. It's all on tape. You can go listen. I gave up on Trevor Penning in August. Said this guy is never going to work. They're moving him all over the line. He's not very good. I'm watching preseason games. Not only is he whiffing, they're not like, oh, he didn't get that block sealed there. I mean, he's just absolutely throwing air blocks and having free rushers come in. It was just a disaster, a lot of the preseason in pass protection. He's improved. There is real shot here that he is a guy who can man that right tackle for the future. And that's awesome. And I'm going to continue to watch that in this game. But one of the guys that we haven't seen that from, have not seen that development, have not seen that light come on, have not seen that production is Kendre Miller. Hand up, right here. Told you, in August, cut him. That's what I said. And there's good reason for that. He's never on the field. Shows up at training camp, first set of drills. Hamstring injury, out. They don't even have shoulder pads on, and he can't practice. And I'm going, get rid of this guy. Their running backs are a dime a dozen. Put Cabote in there. He's running hard in the preseason. He can play running back, fine. You've done a great job over the course of your history of finding guys off the scrap heap to play running back. Pierre Thomas and Chris Ivory and all these guys that weren't Mark Ingram first-round picks, weren't Reggie Bush second overall. You can find a running back. I don't have time for Kendre Miller. Well, turns out Ross Jackson does some reporting at LouisianaSports.net and says, look, Kendre Miller was kind of ready to go, and Dennis Allen was kind of like, I don't really care. You're going on IR. And so there were some disconnects there in the organization. Well, he's back to health. Alvin Kamara has led the NFL in touches most of the year, and you just signed him a 2-year extension, and you're going to really need him down the road. You're not really playing for much. Let's see what the young kid can do. Put him in there. Do something, Kendre Miller. I will say this. There were some flashes at the end of last year. You did see in the Atlanta game, like, okay, well, there's something there. I'd like to see more. The Giants suck, okay? They suck. It's going to be cold. Run the ball. You got an offensive line that likes to run block. Penning loves to run block. Ruiz, better at run blocking. Fuaga, heck of a run blocker. Let's get downhill. Let's run the football. And it doesn't have to be Alvin Kamara for 23 carries in this game. Give Kamara 12. Give Miller 14. I want to see that guy show me that he can take some of this off of Alvin Kamara's plate. Because I can't promise you that Taysom Hill is going to be around forever. I can't promise you how much he can give you next year. You've got to take some of this rushing attack off of Alvin Kamara's plate. And Kendre Miller is in position 1 to do that. He's returned to practice. Says he's healthy enough to go. I'd love it if Kendre Miller got 15 carries and 3 catches in this game. I want to see the talent. It was there at TCU. We saw it. But we have not in black and gold. So I'm not going to break down Drew Lock's return to the lineup. I'm not going to dive into Tyrone Tracy averaging 5 yards a carry. I don't care about that. I like to watch Malik Neighbors play, but he's not real happy there. So it's a little tumultuous. This is not about the Giants. This is about the New Orleans Saints and some of the pieces for this future. Yes, Derek Carr's playing better. 6 touchdowns, no picks is what Derek Carr has given you since returning in Week 9. I love that. I don't think he's the answer moving forward, but that's great. Juwan Johnson needs to be more involved. Marquez Valdez-Scantling's having a little bit of a renaissance here with 4 touchdowns, and all that is well and good too. But I'm not really as concerned with that, and y'all know that. I've talked about it enough. I want to see some of these pieces that are young and cheap. What have we talked about with the Saints time and time and time and time again? Young and cheap, young and cheap, young and cheap. Kendre Miller's young and cheap. Let's see something. Because Alvin Kamara ain't young or cheap. Okay? So I'd like to see some of Kendre Miller in this game. I think they get him going a little bit. I think Kamara gets going a little bit. I think the Saints run the ball well in this game behind a quality offensive line. I don't think the Giants can move the ball on just about anybody, and that includes the Saints' number 29 in the NFL pass defense. So I like the Saints to win this game. I'm going to pick the Saints to win this game. I'll take the black and gold in this one at 27-17, and I think they win the game. I think that'd be great if the Saints win the game. I've said this many times. If they lose the game, I think that's okay for the Saints too. It's not really my concern, but it's like LSU with the bowl game last year. I was far more concerned with how Garrett Nussmeier looked as opposed to whether or not they beat Wisconsin. And in this game, I'd like to see Trevor Penning dominate some. I'd like to see Kendre Miller out there, making some plays, showing some quickness and some explosiveness. I'd love to see the guys on the edges on defense play well. And I'd love to see some of those young pieces kind of emerge into what could be the next iteration of the Saints. They got a lot of roster turnover that's going to have to happen and a lot of turnover in the middle of the organization. But for this game, for 60 minutes up there in Jersey against this bad Giants team, give me some of the young players playing well. I'll take the Saints to win it 27-17. If you're looking for Saints coverage, you can always find it on LouisianaSports.net. Ross does an awesome job. He'll be hitting the road up to Jersey for this one. And you can also find it on YouTube, Hunt on Saints. And that now is not just on YouTube. My Saints content, Saints is all in podcast form and Hunt on Saints as well. So if you like it in audio form, Hunt on Saints, wherever you get your sound. Step aside, take a time out. LSU Florida Gulf Coast on Sunday at 2. Got an expert that's going to come on and break things down. Had a conversation with him earlier this morning. We'll play some of that. We'll talk LSU and Florida Gulf Coast coming up next.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports, evolvept.com. Had surgery, you've been banged up and trying to return to health. You get to pick where you do your physical therapy. I would strongly advise you pick Evolve Physical Therapy in Sports. It's not going to take long to realize why they're different over there because they're so hands-on. They're so helpful. The equipment is state-of-the-art. It's a first-class facility. Look, professional athletes have trusted Robbie Bolton with their bodies. You can do the same. Whether you're a 60-year-old getting back on the golf course, 65 trying to play with the grandkids, you're 19 trying to get back to health after surgery. Doesn't matter. If you're active and want to get back to being your active self, Evolve Physical Therapy and Sports can help you with that. They're online at evolvept.com. You can stop by Starring near Highland Road. They've got first-class facility, and it's like I mentioned, the state-of-the-art equipment. They got the dry needling. They got the isokinetic testing, cupping, scraping, all that they can do in-house. Go by and see them or check them out online. EvolvePT.com. EvolvePT.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
All right, LSU and Florida Gulf Coast will battle at 2 o'clock on Sunday. Dunk City, as they were affectionately called in their tournament run back about a decade ago. Andy Enfield moved on from there to USC. Now he's at SMU, and LSU will see him coming up in the non-conference over in Frisco. But it'll be in Baton Rouge at 2 o'clock, and I had opportunity on the way to daycare this morning to chat with an expert on Florida Gulf Coast. So we'll visit that conversation that we had in my Explorer earlier this morning. It didn't play? we tried to go. Now I got echo.
It's on. I don't know why.
We'll kill it.
Oh, wait. I see a never mind.
Can we talk without an echo? No, we can talk without an echo now.
Yeah.
All right, we tried to play some of the Myers man talking about his first basketball game.
Wait, it may be on. Cassie may need to check her audio. It may not. Maybe muted. Okay, yeah, it's muted. I think.
Play it.
All right, are you going to the basketball game on Sunday?
Yeah.
What are you going to say?
I'm going to say Tigers.
What else are you going to say?
I don't say LSU.
Say, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Are they going to make it in the hoop?
Yeah. They are going to make it to the hoop. And it's going ball down, and it's going to slam on the basketball.
They're going to slam the basketball?
Yeah.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
That's the Myers man.
Wow.
Hard-hitting stuff. It'll be his first basketball game
That
on
was
Saturday.
Incredible analysis.
He's got it all figured out. Just an absolute monster. Loves the hoop. Loves to slam it through the hoop.
Slam it.
Dunk City, but going to be for the Tigers
Yeah.
apparently. As he said, he'll say go Tigers. I'm excited. Bring the little guy to his first hoops game at LSU on Sunday. I'm thinking 20 minutes, maybe some M&Ms, and that'll probably be it. And then Dad will go to the post-game press conference. But fired up to get him in there at 2 o'clock on Sunday. Let's talk about this Florida Gulf Coast team. They're not good. 3-6 on the season. They've only played one Power 5 team. That was TCU. They lost that game by 16 points, 67-51. Back on Wednesday, they lost to Furman. Game they led by 11 at the half. And they gave it up. Gave that lead up and lost 76-73. They've got a distinct style of play. And quite frankly, I think this is a nightmare for Florida Gulf Coast. They're 223rd in the country in offensive efficiency. They do not score the ball well at all. I mentioned the one Power 5 game they played. They scored 51 points on TCU. They are 317th in the country in points per game. They score 64.8 points per game, 317 in the country. They are 354 in possessions per game. There are only 9 teams in the country that play slower than Florida Gulf Coast. LSU is 25th in the country in possessions. That's real fast. It's a lot easier to slow a game down than it is to speed a game up. So Florida Gulf Coast will try. But I feel like LSU is going to be able to get out and run a little bit because they're just a lot more athletic than Florida Gulf Coast. Now listen to this. This is an alarming stat to me. I don't know. It to me shows lack of aggression because this is not even a pace thing with Florida Gulf Coast. They are 362nd of 364. So there are only 2 teams that score a fewer percentage of their points on free throws. So they just don't get to the foul line. They play slow. They don't attack. That's why they don't score any points. Like, there's no better way to score points than to attack, get to the rim, and get to the line. You're shooting high percentage shots at the rim. You're shooting high percentage shots at the free throw line. They don't do that. And they shoot a lot. They score a lot from the three-point line. 57% of their points come from 3. That's, they're 57th in the country in percent of their points from 3. And that's something that LSU takes away exceptionally well. LSU's the best in the country at three-point defense. So to me, like, they want to play slow. LSU wants to play fast. They want to shoot the 3. LSU defends the 3. They don't attack, which LSU can be. I look at this matchup and I'm looking at Florida Gulf Coast and going, this is a nightmare for them. They're not great on defense either. They're 170th in defensive efficiency, and they don't defensive rebound at all. They're 217th in the country in defensive rebounding, and LSU's got Corey Chest and Damian Collins who love to go to the offensive glass. That's not good for them either. I'll tell you what I like from Florida Gulf Coast. None of the numbers I just gave you I like at all. I think that's a disaster of a way to play basketball. But Dallion Johnson is their leading scorer. And I don't know a ton about Mr. Dallion Johnson, but I'll tell you this. He's their leading scorer at 13 points per game. In 9 games this year, 9 games, he has 5 assists, so he doesn't pass, 0 offensive rebounds, so not really going to the rim, and he shot 72 threes. So all he does is shoot threes. He does that okay. Enough to score 13 points per game. But my guy, Dallion Johnson, who's shooting 8 threes a game, has never gotten an offensive rebound and is 5 assists in 9 games, so not even, he's basically 1 every 2 games. He plays like my intramural team in like 2007. We got to the rec. We shot threes. Don't ask me to pass. Don't ask me to rebound. Don't ask me to dribble. We're getting a shot up. And that's what Dallion Johnson does for Florida Gulf Coast, and he's their leading scorer. Jevin Muniz and Ramad Barno, their 2 wings, are leading them in assists, and those are guys that LSU's going to have to keep off the lane to try to dish out to Johnson for threes. But to me, the keys in this game for LSU are pretty simple. Play fast, not reckless, but fast and controlled. Get Florida Gulf Coast moving a little bit. I don't think they want to do that at all. They've got to own the backboard. This is not a good rebounding team. I mentioned 278th in the country in rebounding. So get to the glass and make your hay there. If they do those 2 things, if they play fast and win the glass, Florida Gulf Coast won't be able to keep up in any circumstance. So in that way, I want to see LSU's 2 freshmen, Robert Miller and Curtis Gibbons, play some minutes and play well. I know Victorious Miller is going to play and play well. Freshman, Corey Chess is a redshirt freshman. He's going to be out there in the starting lineup, and he's going to play a lot. Gibbons has been eased in. That's okay because Sears is playing a lot, and because you've seen Carter play great, and now you've gotten the addition of Victorious Miller, and Jai Bailey's going to play and do his thing with defense and making some layups. So they don't need Curtis Givens to be a big piece to this roster. I just want him to develop. And once you get into SEC play, his minutes are going to be cut down in a big way, I think. So these are the opportunities to get him reps and to get him moving, because I still think Curtis Givens is going to be a great player at LSU. I love his frame, his length. I like his vision and his basketball IQ. He's not shooting it great, and he's got to put on some weight, but I want him to get some more reps. And so this is a chance for him to get out there. And Robert Miller is going to have to play. I know he started the first handful of games, but when you lose Jalen Reed, like Damian Collins and Corey Chest are going to get in foul trouble at times. Like, that's just part of being a big, especially in the SEC. So you're going to go to Derek Fountain quickly, but Miller's going to have to play. He had 2 huge putbacks in the game against Florida State, so I want to see him out there and playing a little bit. So to me, take control of the game by using your tempo and then owning the backboard, and then get the freshmen in late. Now, that's going to require that LSU start much faster than they've started in a lot of these games. And we already know that. I'm not going to rehash that for the 900th time in a row, but LSU needs to get off to a better start. We know they've got to get off to a better start. But this matchup is terrible for Florida Gulf Coast. I don't know what the number is going to be tomorrow. I don't care. LSU should hammer this team in the PMAC and put this thing to bed a little bit after halftime. That's what I'm looking to see in the PMAC. We'll also see the Myers man. We got some tickets this morning, so he's fired up. We passed the basketball arena, football stadium, and baseball stadium. He points them all out every day on the way to daycare, so we'll be in the PMAC. If you see us, say hey. We're looking forward to getting in there on Sunday at 2 o'clock. When we come back, we will close out the week on the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com is the website. When you think luxury, think Genesis of Baton Rouge. Every single car in that line is incredibly safe. It's sleekly designed. It rides great. It's comfortable. It's got all the bells and whistles that you would want in those modern vehicles. And it comes at a reasonable price. Go by the dealership. You're going to feel like a guest, not a customer. Their brand ambassadors are phenomenal to work with. They'll get you behind the wheel of that car, and you'll see for yourself why there's a Genesis difference. And when you think, I don't really like going to dealerships, I get that. Sometimes it can be a negative experience. It's not going to be the case at Genesis Baton Rouge. But if you want them to come to you, you can do that. Start the process online at genesisbatonrouge.com and find a car you'd like to test drive. Everyone that's on the lot is online. One of their brand ambassadors will bring that car to you at work, at home, whatever. They'll walk you through that test drive, and you can see for yourself. You never have to set foot on the dealership. They do e-contracts, delivery. All that can be done away from the grounds of the dealership. They're on airline at Pico if you want to stop by, but you don't have to. Check them out online, Genesis of Baton Rouge. It's Genesis of Baton Rouge, genesisofbatonrouge.com.
This is the Hunt Palmer Show, brought to you by Quirks, Cajun fried fish and shrimp.
Corks Cajun Fried Fish and Shrimp, corksfishandshrimp.com. If you've got a holiday party up for the office that's coming up and you want some catering done, maybe you're feeding the office lunch, it's kind of a year-end treat if you hit a bunch of goals. Corks, always happy to feed the office, always happy to feed the holiday party, always happy to feed the tailgate party as well. They can do bulk orders, big trays of that crispy fried catfish, big trays of that jumbo Gulf shrimp, shoestring fries, honey butter rolls, crawfish etouffee. They can do it all over there at Corks. Just swing by for a late lunch or a dinner. It's government between Foster and Jefferson. Had a tweet that was sent my way a little bit earlier today. Let's see who sent me that tweet. It was Chris McDowell. Said I was all the way out in Gonzales and you started talking about Corks. So here I am on Government Street eating shrimp and listening to 104.5 ESPN. That's an easy way to get a retweet if you tweet at that at me. Chris McDowell, we appreciate that. Corks, fantastic partner here at the Hunt Palmer Show. They bring you our Friday shows each and every week, so we appreciate them for that. Football Friday today. We're not done. Matt Musso is about to drive you home on After Further Review. Matt's been out for the last couple of days, had to head over for a doctor's appointment, but fired up for this evening in Baton Rouge local high school football. Kay Wasan going to be on coming up at 6 o'clock for Louisiana Prep Preview. They'll get you ready for Catholic and Carr from the West Bank. Going to be an awesome environment for that one. It's two of the big powerhouse programs in the state. And they'll be back to the Louisiana Prep Scoreboard at 10 o'clock. So we're with you here live and local until about midnight tonight here on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. We'll also have the SEC Championship and the ACC Championship in their entireties tomorrow if you're driving around and want to lock in on Texas and Georgia, as well as SMU and Clemson in the ACC Championship game tomorrow evening. So that's kind of getting you set up for the weekend. We've got one more order of business to do. That, of course, is take it or leave it.
All right, first one here. A sports bettor in Kentucky placed a $3.1 million bet on the Philadelphia Eagles to beat the Carolina Panthers. That's one of the largest bets ever reported on an NFL regular season game. The bet would net just under $443,000. Betting $3 million. Take it or leave it.
Depends on how much you have. I'll take it. Well, sure, it's not my money, so I guess I don't have to worry about it. I'm trying to run the numbers on that. Like, if you've got $10 million to your name, I think that's probably a bad bet.
Yeah.
If you've got 180, sure. I don't know that an extra 443 is going to.
I don't know how much value you're really getting.
There's not a ton. I mean, you just boil it down. If I bet 310 to win 40, that's more my speed. But it's probably going to happen. But the Panthers have played better, and there's no guarantee that Jalen Hurts doesn't go down 3 minutes into the game. There's a reason the odds are what they are, I guess. So if you got some cash and want to put $3.1 million on it, fire away. I put that in tier 4 because I think it's a bad football game. But maybe we'll talk about that on Monday.
Maybe so. Next one here. Tennessee cornerback Jordan Matthews has entered the transfer portal. Matthews was a top 10 recruit coming out of Louisiana in 2023, prepping at Woodlawn, Baton Rouge. LSU will be in the mix. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I mean, that's a guy who was a 4-star, was a good player. I don't know anything about what he did at Tennessee.
Not much.
They got a good defense and they got a good defensive backfield, so I'm not sure. But LSU needs to add talent to the cornerback position. And if that's a guy that Corey Raymond thinks he can develop, we'll see. I think they're going to have options in the portal. Obviously, the guy that we talked about earlier from Florida is going to be in the mix there. So we'll see. But I'd be willing to take a look.
Yeah, it looks like he doesn't really have very many stats. He played in 5 games last year, and maybe he was hurt this year. I'm not sure. It looks like he didn't play. He did make the SEC Academic Honor Roll, so that's good. That's
excellent.
Good.
Better than me.
Next one here. Cold pizza for breakfast. Take it or leave it.
I will take it. I like cold pizza, but I like cold pizza. I will absolutely eat it. I will enjoy it. I'm probably going to warm up the skillet.
I would prefer to just.
I'm probably going to warm it up in the skillet and go there. It's going to take me 4 minutes, and I think it's better. Trust me, I will eat cold pizza if it's available.
I will too, man. But I'll put it in the air fryer for a couple minutes. I prefer.
We talked about this. I had never warmed up in the skillet before.
Yeah,
and that changed my life.
It's quite good.
The crispiness that comes with that. I mean, the microwave, just be damned. That's just an absolutely not.
You don't want to do that.
No.
All right, last one. Breakfast pizza. Take it or leave it.
So I'm going to try this tomorrow. I've never made breakfast pizza. I like breakfast pizza. But we're going to do like a bacon grease and like milk-based garlic sauce, cheese sauce. All right. We're going to go cheese. We're going to do some sausage, some bacon, some scrambled eggs. So real heart healthy.
Yeah.
But I've never made it before. We're going to try it. I told Alyssa that I was going to make that. She said, "You're an idiot. You're going to get the kitchen disgusting, and me and Myers are not going to eat that. So don't do that."
Myers is not going to eat it?
Myers eats 4 things.
He won't eat pizza?
He does eat pizza. This is going to have scrambled eggs and bacon on it. He will not eat that.
Yeah. Well, you could just make him a little small one without all that stuff on it.
Well, he's not going to eat. He eats chicken nuggets, French fries, ketchup, lasagna, meatloaf. That's about it.
Oh, no, the baked ziti. Don't forget about the baked ziti.
Yeah, we tell him it's lasagna. We cut it up real just tell him it's lasagna. Because when the lasagna comes for him, it's cut up in tiny little pieces. Right. So there's not a lot of... I'm sorry, I missed one. He eats beans.
Okay.
We take beans out of a can and warm them up on the stove, and he'll just shovel them up.
That's good.
Kid will not eat scrambled eggs, will not eat macaroni and cheese, sometimes a quesadilla.
The mac and cheese is surprising.
He's an idiot. Grow up, kid. Eat some more food.
It's so mean, man.
That was uncalled for. Well, he's probably going to get candy at the game on Sunday.
Probably.
He'll eat that.
Oh, yeah.
Halloween candy's still there. And he will eat whatever you want as long as you will get it. Well, that's not true, but he'll eat a lot if you just tell them the Halloween candy's coming on the back end. So that's it for a Friday edition. If you missed any of it, catch it on demand wherever you find your sound, of course, on YouTube as well. We're back on Monday. Looking forward to that. Got a lot to react to on Monday's show. Musso is going to drive you home next on After Further Review. Everybody have a wonderful and safe weekend. And we'll see you tomorrow. No, we won't. We'll see you Monday for the Hunt Palmer Show.
The Hunt Palmer Show.
Highland Insurance Group, HighlandIG.com is the website. Jonathan Carver and his team, fantastic people to work with. I've told you, you're getting towards the end here, but if you've got a 1/1 renewal for your commercial insurance program, you probably should have looked at that previous to now, but it's never quite too late. You can give them a call at the Highland Insurance Group. They are happy to help you. If you're looking for different markets to better have solutions for issues inside of your industry, the Highland Insurance Group is an independent broker. They can find those markets for you. They got dozens of them on hand. EPL, crime, cyber, D&O, umbrella, whatever you need for your business, they can help you there. And they're great to work with. They're great people, and they want to be a part of your team. You trust your attorney. You trust your CPA. You need to trust your insurance broker as well. They're right here in Baton Rouge, but they can help you anywhere in the state of Louisiana. So if you're around looking for a different option for your insurance program, the Highland Insurance Group can help you with it. Give them a call or check them out online. It's HighlandIG.com, HighlandIG.com.